Hey folks, Cornell with YouTube Fishing Vids. Welcome along. I'm not aboard. I'm at a local lake. This is not a pond. This is actually a spot out here in Maryland that I've fished only probably once in my life, and it's been years and years and years. Guys have been telling me to come out here and check it out. There's been some big ones caught out of here. And there's my first fish on a day on probably one of the most classic setups you could ever think to fish on a small body of water. Let me toss this thing down here gently. There's a limited amount of shoreline to get them into some water. Such is the efforts of shoreline fishing. Folks, there can't really be anything more classic when it comes to these little bodies of water than a tiny, skinny, little Zoom U-tailed worm. I brought one rod, I brought one hook, one sinker, and a package of U-tailed worms. That's all it is, guys. All I'm doing is bringing one little bait caster out with me and my 6'8" Shimano Crucial rod. It's a medium action. I've got my tournament, what's this one? This is a Team Lose Light bait caster with 12-pound test bait, fluorocarbon. That's all it is, guys. That's all we're doing today. Throw a little Texas rig worm out there and crawling across the bottom for about an hour's worth of fishing in the evening. That was a pretty mean hook set on that little guy, but I had no idea what I was dealing with since it was such a little tap. And I'm on this little pier, so this thing is wobbling a little bit, so I'm gonna try and hold that steady for you guys. There's number 2 fish in 10 minutes. That's a pretty good deal. Like I said, I only got about an hour out here. That sun is dipping quick. Just an awesome opportunity to get out here and get your line tugged on a little local lake in a little community here. This is just a little community lake is all this is. Let me give you a little more detail. Like I mentioned about this little U-tailed worm, just 6-inch skinny little worm sliding through all these. There's a lot of weed patches, a lot of weed edges out here. It's pretty awesome for a little shoreline fishing, but this worm hook, this thing, I'm telling you, you guys are gonna know what this is. This is that same rebarb hook by RoboWorm. They make a light wire, they make a medium wire, they make everything from a number 1 all the way up to a 4/0. So this is actually a medium wire 2/0, so it works perfect. This is one of those deals where you don't have to use that offset hook, which tends to have those worms slide down a little bit. That rebarb right there, when you Texas rig this little guy, it holds the meat of that bait in perfectly, and you actually get a really good hook set with this setup. This setup is so awesome that instead of having that real straight shanked offset worm hook, you've got this more J hook style deal with that rebarb. It's just holding that thing in there perfectly. So that's getting a real good hook set. Perfect little pond slash lake slash shoreline, everything classic Texas rig right there, guys. So one of the reasons why these Texas rigs are such awesome options from the shoreline, you know, there's a lot of times when you can come out here and see all these weed patches and think top water is gonna be the deal either in the early morning or the evening. You can come out here throwing flukes and Senkos, and sometimes it's just not the ticket. Sometimes they just don't want anything mid-level, and sometimes they don't want anything on top, and sometimes they don't want anything moving. So if you come out here with a small little itty-bitty little worm, put a tiny little 1/8 ounce tungsten or whatever weight you have just to get a little bit of weight to get that tiny worm down and sliding through these weeds really easy and just crawling across the bottom, that's usually the number 1 classic little setup you can do. So get yourself a tiny little worm. Doesn't matter if it's a little Berkeley 4-inch power worm or a 6-inch skinny little U-tail worm by Zoom. Just get that thing out there on a tiny little 1/8 ounce tungsten head, 10 to 12-pound test fluorocarbon, spinning tackle, bait casters, whatever you got. It'll tear them up. It's going to get me a couple tonight, I could already tell. And I did not even know I had one, guys. Well, there you go. 3 fish in about 50 minutes. That's not a bad deal. So that classic Texas worm, little U-tailed 6-inch Zoom, got me a couple fish in the last few hours of light. So guys, when you're fishing your ponds, when you're fishing your lakes, and you know that they've been pressured, or you've been throwing everything from top water to Senkos to moving baits and nothing else is working, just drag that little Texas rig worm right in front of their face and they usually can't resist it. So guys, as always, I appreciate you joining me. As always, I appreciate you subscribing. And until we meet again, over and out.